Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Music Den. I'm your host, Armando Venditti. Hoping you guys are having a great day. And above all else, that you're indeed looking after yourselves and one another. Today, ladies and gentlemen, we have a fantastic episode to bring to you. I want to welcome back first to the channel, Mr. Jim Bricker. How's it going, Jim?
I am doing very well, Armando. I am actually having a brighter day. Not a great day, but a
Oh, a
brighter day.
brighter day.
See what I
Yes.
did there?
I caught it. I
All
caught it.
right, all right. You're quick.
I caught it. I caught it. Ladies and gentlemen, we want to welcome you to Power Pop Perfection. And the band we're going to be talking about is a band that was around in the late 80s, early 90s, releasing only two albums to their credit in terms of studio output. The band is Jellyfish, an American rock band formed in San Francisco in 1989, led by songwriters Andy Sturmer on drums and vocals and various instruments, and Roger Manning on keyboards, vocals, guitars, various instruments. The band were known for their blend of 1960s classic rock and XTC style power pop. Now, they released two albums, Belly Button in 1990 and Spilt Milk in 1993, which is how I knew of them. Uh, they signed to Charisma Records in the US and Virgin Records in Canada and in Japan. Now, in terms of their album sales, unfortunately, and quite unfortunately, they kind of went under the radar in terms of mass appeal. Now, according to the information I have, Belly Button and Spilt Milk sold a combined total of 269,000 copies worldwide. Um, Although, according to my notes, the number could be higher. A SoundScan was launched a year after the release of Belly Button. So the number of 269,000 is could be a little is skewed, as it were. Now, again, in the band, you had Andy Sturmer on vocals, drums, keyboards, and guitars, Roger Manning on keyboards, piano, guitars, percussion, and vocals. Also in the band, it's got to be said too, they had pretty much a revolving door of musicians that came and went within the band. You had Jason Faulkner on guitars, bass, keyboards, and backing vocals from 89 to 91. Chris Manning on bass and backing vocals from 1990 to 91. Eric Dover on guitar, banjo, keyboards, backing vocals from 1993 to 94. And Tim Smith on bass, backing vocals from 92 to 94. But Andy Sturmer and Roger Manning were the two mainstays within the band. Okay.
It
Now,
was Andy and Roger's band for
yes,
sure.
for sure. Yes. Now, Jim and I have talked about doing this episode for quite a while. It's been on the books for about a year, Jim.
Think so? Yeah, think so.
One of the things that I got to backtrack a little bit. One of the things that quote unquote attracted me to Jim in terms of him coming on the channel was when we had our first, I'd say, virtual interview in terms of chatting about coming on the channel was our mutual like and admiration for jellyfish. If you remember that way back then,
Yes.
way back in the 1800s when we chatted. So my, how can I put this? My experience with jellyfish is limited, I'd say. I got on board the jellyfish train, as it were, with the release of Spit Milk from 1993, with the single "The Ghost at Number One," which I think is perfection, just
Mhm.
off the charts. It's got to be said. So I
I
will
didn't
pass.
realize that, Armando. I thought that you were introduced to jellyfish by our good friend Mr. Bill Schuster.
Bill and I talked about jellyfish, but
Hmm.
off and on, and but I really didn't dive into the previous album Belly Button until you and I talked about doing this episode,
Okay.
and I got to say, I was surprised. But before I give my spiel and my view on this band, what is your history with Jellyfish as a band?
Well, my history goes back to before there was a jellyfish, and that goes back to two bands, well, three really. Um, and a lot of this is chronicled in an excellent biography that's out there that's published that you can get from Cool Cat Music. It's called A Brighter Day or Brighter Day, a Jellyfish Story. So uh, please check that out.
Oh,
It's highly worth getting.
I'll put the
Um,
link in the description below.
and I can certainly be fact checked by anything from that book. They interviewed Andy and Roger, and I think everyone involved with the band to kind of tell the story properly. Having said all that, Andy's first involvement with what became Jellyfish can be traced back to this San Francisco band called Chrome Dinette, which was fronted by a guy named Chris Kettner, and this was sort of a fusion of new wave and funk, I think, and power pop. Chrome Dinette did not last very long. Um, Andy had an opportunity to meet with Chris Kettner and kind of do some jamming, do some songwriting, and then ended up developing into this industrial power pop band that was around San Francisco in 85, 86, 87 called Zula Pool. Uh, and Zula Pool, you know, had its little niche. It was doing well, but it never really broke through. Um, Andy and Chris, their interests began to sort of evolve a little bit. And one of the things they started doing as a side project was this little band called Beatnik Beach. And that was sort of the secret identity of Zula Pool. They would go out and they would do these little things. I remember seeing them outside of a Crowded House show um, in San Francisco doing their Beatnik Beach thing, and it was basically Andy on a snare drum with either brushes or sticks. Chris Kettner had a stand-up bass. George Cole, the guitarist, was an acoustic guitar, and they would just kind of do these sort of beatniky type songs. Um,
Mhm.
Beatnik Beach is the persona that really stuck. And when they were signed to Atlantic Records, it was under the
Yeah,
Beatnik Beach name.
that's right.
Um, and they did one album, and it's pretty good as far as pop albums go. They also did there was an album that came out prior to the Atlantic release called At the Zula Pool, which was released on blue vinyl, Industrial Records in San Francisco. If you can find it, grab it. It's fun. I kind of prefer it to the Atlantic album, but there you go. When they joined Atlantic Records, the makeup of Beatnik Beach had evolved to adding Roger Manning into the group, replacing another keyboardist, Zay Badia. And Roger and Andy had known each other since high school,
Yeah,
and they were two musically kindred souls. And Roger was just a natural fit into the band. And so Beatnik Beach got, a lot more play being part of Atlantic Records, da 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 da.
yeah.
But I think Andy and Roger's musical visions and talents as songwriters kind of felt constrained within the form and factor of what Beatnik Beach was at the time.
Mhm.
And I believe they had a mutual parting of the ways with Chris Kettner um, to decide to go off and sort of form their own thing, and that own thing became Jellyfish. So
Yes.
that's my experience up until that point, and I can either keep going or give you a chance to sort of weigh in
Well,
there.
no, I mean, I can give you we'll talk about the albums that were released under the name Jellyfish. Belly Button was released on, the debut released on July 27th, 1990. Produced by Albie, can you
Albie Galutin.
Albie
That is how
Galutin?
you say it.
Yeah. Albie Galutin, forgive me for that. And Jack Joseph, I think it's Puig or
Puig.
Pug. Twig.
Quig. Mhm.
Jack Joseph Puig has also produced albums for Tonic, Lemon Parade, their debut release on Polydor Records. Fantastic album. Check it
And
out.
if we're talking about production, we got to say the reason that Albie Gluten came on board for Belly Button is
Mm.
that Andy and Roger, and if I recall right, it's specifically Roger, was just head over heels about Albie's production work on the Saturday Night Fever soundtrack. He just thought the
Oh,
way that he got all those instruments to just shine and stand out was just fantastic, and he kind of saw it in his mind's eye, that like that's like or mind's ear, that that was the vision that he had for how Jellyfish might sound, not from a disco standpoint, but from
no,
just a production standpoint.
standpoint. Okay.
So there's your connective tissue between Roger Manning and John Travolta.
Okay. All right. Won't even go there. All right. Okay.
Okay.
No, I see. I didn't even know that. I had no idea. Oh, that's
I'm
good.
happy to help.
Uh, um, Belly Button, from, again, with a total playing time of just under 40 minutes at 39 minutes and 32 seconds, 10 tracks in total. Doing research for this just before we started taping, I remembered the videos that were released from this album now, but I had no idea of this album's existence at the time in terms of, being in the, being on the charts, etc.
Hmm.
But yeah, for me, Jellyfish has always been a band that were like just like amazing, amazing in terms of being able to write power pop, as it were, but using the influences of the past, but not overly so. Does that make sense to you?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, the musical, collections that Andy and Roger grew up with, they really informed kind of the backdrop of the Jellyfish sound.
Yeah,
And that sort of became very, very clear when they played live because
yeah.
um, on their live shows, they would see if I can do this from memory. They would cover Argent, they would cover Paul McCartney and Wings, they would cover Kansas, um, Todd Rundgren, um, Player, Baby Come Back. Um, there's Badfinger. I mean, that's the wheelhouse that
Come and get it.
Jellyfish kind of ran in,
Yeah.
and yeah, that definitely informed the aesthetic, the musical aesthetic. Then they had kind of this thrift shop aesthetic that
In
kind
terms
of
of
went
this, in terms
the
of
look.
the fashion, yeah. In terms
Yeah.
of their overall look, yeah.
But
And
yeah, they took all these things. I mean, I'm just happen to be looking at Discogs right now, and for what they have for style for Jellyfish is alternative rock, psychedelic rock, and jangle pop. And yeah,
mhm,
if you took those four things together, you can munge them into power pop, and that works very, very well. And yes, there's definitely some XTC influences, some Queen influences.
yeah.
Obviously, talked about Badfinger and Paul McCartney and Wings, so there's some Beatles stuff in there too. Yeah, it's really undeniable. It should be noted that there's kind of this undercurrent of a jazz aesthetic going on as well because of because of their background and the musical places that they traveled in high school when they met each other, but also in who they got to play on the Belly Button album. John Patitucci on acoustic bass was just, pretty much the jazz guy in
Hmm.
those days, and it was great to bring him on. Tommy Morgan, his harmonica work on The Man I Used to Be. I think Tommy Morgan may have been with the Tonight Band, the Tonight Show band. I'm not sure,
Hmm.
but he's another, classic, kind of jazzer in that world. So,
Yeah, and well, I mean, there's even, I mean, we can talk about this also later, but there's also the Beatles influence that
oh
comes
yeah,
through,
yeah, undeniable.
you know. What was it for you that drew you to their music? Or like when you listen to Belly Button and, you know, obviously you have more releases from them than I do, which we'll talk about as well. But what was it overall that drew you to uh, Jellyfish in terms of
Well,
their
having
music?
been, familiar with Zula Pool and Beatnik Beach, I've kind of been along for the ride, and I've watched, you know, and listened to Andy's songwriting and performance just sort of blossom over those two bands, for what became Jellyfish. I believe that there was one or two Jellyfish songs that were sort of done in the Beatnik Beach era, but they didn't get properly recorded until the Jellyfish era. So what I heard in the songs was just these classic, kind of 70s AM power pop aesthetic that just ran through everything. I mean, these songs were eminently singable, hummable, catchy as all get out. Um, and if something called for kind of a Carpenter's like influence vocally, yeah, they could do that. If something called for some hard electric guitars, like, an Alice Cooper sort of thing, yeah, they could do that too.
Yeah,
If they wanted kind of a Queen feel on a certain thing, they could do that. If they wanted jazz, I mean, the their musical playground was sort of boundaryless because their experience and their imaginations were just so broad that um, just the fact that they were able to sort of kind of pick and choose the right paints with which to create a specific, masterpiece of a song, if you will, that they had the facility and the creativity to sort of make
yeah,
that happen.
yeah,
So I would say it's the combination of fantastic songwriting and really sensitive, informed arrangements and just these great performances that just made it all stand out. And four-part harmonies on The King is Half Undressed. I mean, there ain't nobody who was doing that,
yeah,
back in 1990. They
mm,
they were the guys who was sort of leading that charge. In fact, I remember being at gigs where, they would come to kind of the stop time section of The King and Half Undressed, and they're doing this four-part harmony swoop
yeah,
back into where the music kicks off again.
yeah,
And I was standing next to some person saying, "Oh my God, I can't believe they just did that live." They thought that it was just all studio trickery, but no, it was them working their butts off on practicing harmonies, on the tour buses and whatnot to sort of nail that stuff right.
yeah. No, I hear what you're saying. And for me, I can definitely hear the Queen influence in
Hmm.
terms of the harmony vocals that they did. And in fact, Brian May, at the time of the release of Spilt Milk, said that when he was on tour at the same time for his solo album, Back to the Light, and that they had the album on the tour bus with them, Spilt Milk, and that he heard the the Queen reference in their harmonies and the arrangements, and he thought that
Hmm.
that was just wonderful that they were paying homage to music that came before. But again, you having their own style and their own feel for it, you know.
Hmm.
What I like about the band is the use of live instrumentation. Yes, they may use patches on the keyboard and synths and stuff,
Hmm.
but overall, I mean, the use of timpani on certain songs, and for more richness and full, lush arrangements on the tracks. I like that too.
Yeah.
Just they were
I
very
think things like,
unique.
the use of the trumpet on I Want to Stay Home, that
Yeah,
calls back to, all the times where, McCartney and George Martin would pull out, a trumpet solo,
yeah,
for Beatles tracks.
yeah. Exactly, exactly. It's the organic nature of their arrangements that gets me. They were mentioned on Much Music in Canada quite a bit,
Hmm.
and I'm surprised that I'm just being reminded of this release now, as opposed to like remembering it back then. But and you got to remember too, when they came out with Belly Button, music at that point was, I mean, hair metal was dying out. Uh, Grunge had yet to take off.
Hmm.
So they kind of fell. Where do you think they kind of fell in terms of the musical landscape, in terms of,
Well, there was kind of this Paisley underground movement that was happening in California at the time, and that was sort of birthed by a lot of bands that were happening in the LA area and the Sacramento area, yeah, LA and Sacramento. The 3 O'Clock, I think, is one of them. The Posies, um, those are bands, if I've got the names right, kind of epitomize that. But Jellyfish never really fit into that milieu because their influences were broader. They weren't just kind of limited to the kind of jangly pop, you know, center that the Paisley Underground, kind of stuck with.
yeah, to me, they are just so unique.
Hmm.
Um, in that when I listen to these albums, and we'll get into Spit Milk in a sec, but when I listen to these albums, the rule is for them, there were no rules.
Yeah, it's whatever sort of fit what the song needed. If the song needs acoustic bass, you call in John Patitucci. If you need a trumpet solo, you get, one of the best trumpeters in the LA scene. You need harmonica, call Tommy Morgan. I mean, it's there. I mean,
Exactly.
Baby's coming back. It needed that acoustic guitar thing, and so Faulkner used an acoustic guitar. Calling Sarah, it's got this sort of Partridge Family-ish keyboard part. Works perfectly.
Yeah, that exactly, exactly. Now we're moving on to their
Well,
sophomore. Sorry.
before we move on, there's one release that I want to talk about that came out
Sure.
kind of in between, and I'm holding up the little card for this. Jellyfish Comes Alive.
Okay, you're
Uh,
perfect right there.
okay, there it
Right
is.
there.
So
Right
this
there.
is an EP that came out after the Belly Button album, Jellyfish Comes Alive. Um, it's a 5 song EP. Sorry, I got to reach over here and grab it to get what the tracks are. And it's basically a few songs from their debut album done live, but it's mostly covers. No Matter What, the Badfinger tune,
Yeah.
um, Let 'Em In, the Wings tune, and Jet, another Wings tune. Um, and that's combined with That Is Why Now She Knows She's Wrong and the King is Half Undressed.
Yeah.
It's on here. This is a great, great EP. And I think all of these tracks ended up on either the fan club box, which we'll talk about, and also that also may have ended up on the more recent re-releases that were done of both Belly Button and the sophomore album, Spilt Milk. Um,
Excuse me.
Omnivore re-released these as 2 disc sets, not only including the original album materials, but also uh, stuffing the rest of those discs with things that were, I think, probably first released on either Jellyfish Comes Alive or the
Yeah.
Fan Club box. But this it's a delightful little EP, and again showed just how this was not a studio trickery band.
Yeah.
They were legit. They were the real thing.
Okay. No, and you can get those on Discogs, by the way. I've seen the releases available on Discogs. So,
Yep.
um, no, it's good. It's good. Okay. Now moving on to their sophomore release. Spilt Milk, released on February 9th, 1993, recorded from April to September of 1992, with the same production team as used on Belly Button. Also, Andy Sturmer and Roger Manning also helmed the production duties on this album, uh, with a total playing time of 46 minutes and 13 seconds. Now, this is where I remember being made aware uh, of Jellyfish. Much Music, I believe, hailed them as the new Queen in terms of the harmony vocals and what they were doing
Hmm.
musically, with the lead off single being The Ghost at Number One, which is my personal favorite. Um, yeah. this album for me is um this album for me is simply fantastic. Uh, but what is your memory of this release?
I first heard um, this album on cassette about a 2 or 3 months before it came out, and I heard it at an astoundingly, deafeningly loud volume. I may still have that cassette. I wish I had prepared. I
It's
see it on the
fine.
shelf. Maybe I'll grab it later and we can put an image of it in later. Um, but yes, it was. I was just absolutely blown away. I mean, just um, to say that I mean, Jellyfish had a 2 album discography. To say that this is their pet sounds is, I think it's not a hot take. This is it's a production masterpiece. There's a lot of people out there in the Jellyfish world who debate about like what the superior album of the two is. Is it Spilt Milk or is it Belly Button? I'm on the Spilt Milk camp just because the songs are at least as good. There's more variety in there. And from a
Yeah,
production standpoint, I mean, this is, my understanding is that when studios in LA would get new equipment in the control rooms to kind of test things out, to test things out, they would put on Spilt Milk and use that to sort of tune the room and
yeah.
balance everything because it's such a lush, unbelievable production. I mean, just the opening track alone,
Hush,
Hush,
hush.
lets you know that you're in for this ride because it starts with this sort of twee little twilight lullaby into this like whatever 16 overlaid voices coming at you.
Yeah, from all ends of the room, areas of the
Yeah.
room. Yeah, yeah.
It's just an absolute masterpiece of kind of this dream state, and that's kind of what they ended up sort of going for, is that this album should feel like a dream because it's all over the place. It's not schizophrenic, but it is just all over the place in terms of the types of style within its kind of certain wheelhouse.
It's a dream with a lot of left turns,
Which, dreams have left turns. Let's
which
let's
is
be
fine.
real. I mean, if you've seen
Which is fine.
Inception, you get the idea
Which is fine.
there.
No, no, and I don't mean that in a bad way at all. I mean,
No.
um, what I mean, you mentioned Hush, which starts off the album beautifully
Hmm.
done. To me, looking back on the album, they managed to capture what this album was about in 2 minutes and 10 seconds. Because in terms of listening to the lead off track, what you can expect on this album is the unexpected.
Well, I would take what you said there, my good friend, and I would extend it just a little bit because I think you need that immediate jump cut into joining a fan club
Yeah,
to really give you the sense of what you're after. Because you want to talk about like Brian May styled guitars that dun, 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 dun,
yeah,
dun,
yeah,
dun, dun,
yeah.
dun. I mean, that's just um, it's just a fantastic, like I said, jump cut to sort of get you into the fullness of what Jellyfish was about. These unbelievable, lushly arranged harmonies and sweet performance. But, if they wanted to plug in and turn the amps to 11 and rock out
They
like their
could.
heroes did, they absolutely could.
They could, yeah. Would okay. And then you have
I love this
this
next song. I love this
this
next song.
this is the track that bonded Jim and I together because this is what because when I mentioned that there's a in our first meeting via Zoom about him possibly coming on the channel, when I mentioned there was a song in the album that reminded me of Maxwell Silver Hammer from Abbey
Yep,
Road. He said Sabrina Paste and Play-Doh. And it was like, that's it. That's the
that's
song.
it.
That
Yep.
was this was the song that bonded us together. So in terms of us getting along, yes, I definitely.
Yeah.
amazing, amazing, featuring Roger Manning on vocals, right?
Yep.
It's yeah. So another left turn.
Oh, yeah, because who doesn't love a lovely little, a lovely little tune about a primary age school teacher poisoning the children in fine Edward Gorey fashion. I mean,
Well, there you
clearly
go.
we do not support the poisoning of children.
We do not
We do
condone
not
that
support bad
whatsoever.
behavior from primary school teachers, heaven
No,
forbid, but it sure makes for a quirky little pop song.
damn right it does.
And
And
I just
then
love, there's a couple of things about this album that people need to understand.
yeah,
First of all, it doesn't take itself too seriously. The back cover of the album spells out the song titles using alphabets cereal with
yeah,
milk throughout because spilt milk. Okay, it
yeah,
all
yeah.
works. It's
There
tied
you
in.
go. There you go.
Sabrina Paste and Play-Doh, you would think primary school. And of course, it's not Play-Doh as in like what kids build things with and eat, but it's, Plato as in, the philosopher,
Yeah,
Plato.
yeah,
So
yeah.
there's just these, quirky little turns of phrase that they do throughout this album
It,
that
it's
is
it.
delightful.
I call it musical wordplay.
Mm,
In that
That'll
respect.
work.
And
That'll work.
then and then you have which I believe it was the next single, "New Mistake."
New mistake.
Uh,
To me, that is the towering achievement of the Jellyfish discography.
really? Okay.
Really, absolutely. I think it's
Do
just,
tell.
well, it's in classic Jellyfish form. It is wonderfully performed. It is immaculately produced.
Hmm.
But it also, like any good movie, or any great album that has bookends to it, the song has a beginning and a middle and an end. It tells a story. It tells the story of you know you know I can't even I'm sorry, I'm not more prepared to kind of talk about it, but it tells a definite story. And the new
Hmm.
mistake is having a child, and just how, the narrator, falls in love with his new mistake, even though it's turned his life totally upside down.
Yeah.
The most amazing thing about this song, though, is the um lyrically, harmonically, melodically, it's beautiful. But the ending touches in the production in this song, the way, even as it's fading out, they keep adding little elements to it.
Yeah.
So it just builds and builds and builds. And, what kind of starts off as this um, electric piano, bass, and drum thing, they start adding little string touches and percussion touches,
Yeah.
or some great big bass pedal thumps that happen. I mean, it's so the sound design on it is perfect. And
Hmm.
good Lord in heaven, if they ever do a 5.1 or an Atmos release of this album, that is the thing that's going to make me go out and buy a 5.1 or Atmos compatible system, because
Hmm.
I would want to hear that ending of New Mistake with, as well as Hush and just all the swirling elements together. It'll just be a cacophony of beauty. I think,
I
New
would agree.
Mistake lyrically and musically is just their apex.
I would agree. I would agree in terms of their inventiveness in the studio. Um, I'm thinking when you said about Atmos 5.1 remix, I'm thinking Steven Wilson doing a remix of this.
Yes. Yeah. Take my money now. Exactly.
You know, and I mean, okay, after New Mistake comes Glen of Sympathy. Uh,
Great ballad.
yeah, it's and I just the use of harmony on all these
Hmm.
songs on just anything I say can it's just going to cheapen it. I just think that they do a fantastic job at bringing everything to the forefront in terms of the harmony vocals and the instrumentation. I mean, when you look at, let's say track six, the Ghost at number one,
Hmm.
everything that goes on in that song, you know, the use of timpani on the breakdown, the use of harpsichord,
Yep.
dare I say, the bravado vocal
You may.
approach that that Andy does on the lead, on the lead off verse. Just the
God's gift to oxygen. You
yeah, it's just
know,
like,
it's
oh
like,
my God, like, but the way he delivers it, it's just like, he's got his chest out and he's like, he's
spit and
commanding.
fire.
He's
Yeah.
but what I'm saying is very ineffectively. What I'm saying is he's commanding your attention
Oh yeah.
and his vocal delivery, just like boom, I'm here.
Hmm.
Take a look at me. Don't look away because if you do, I'm gonna know and you're gonna pay for it. Like he's in your face, but
Yep.
beautifully so. And even on the breakdown section, the Beach Boys influence, it is so there.
Well,
Like it is
it's
so
so there because
obvious.
the song is about Brian Wilson.
Yeah,
That's the ghost.
yeah.
Okay.
There you go. I mean, yeah. But these are things that if you didn't know what the references were, you were like, okay, this is just a really well crafted power pop song with catchy hooks, fantastic melody, fantastic harmony vocals. Again, I also hear the Queen reference in here too, but
Oh,
uh,
sure.
you know, um, and it's track six on the album, right? Like you have to
It
listen
ends
to,
side A. Yep.
yeah, and then side two starts off with Bye Bye Bye. Uh,
Which I know that Bye 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 was back from the Beatnik Beach days because I remember them, performing that.
okay, okay,
And again, it's, whereas Ghost at number one is very much in the glam rock power pop section. Bye 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 sounds like a, polka from a Jewish Orthodox wedding. I mean, it's
yeah,
just
yeah,
has this feel
yeah,
complete with the heys and the claps and everything. It's
yeah,
this,
yeah,
it's just fantastic. And
yeah,
again, more lush harmonies and
yeah.
but then that goes
But with
right
the
into all is forgiven,
yeah,
which is this, guitars on overdrive, um, kind of grungish,
feel,
grunge meets
yeah,
Queen thing. I mean, it's
yeah,
fantastic.
yeah. I was just gonna say with Bye Bye Bye, there's a bit of for me, Billy Fiddler on the Roof there.
Oh yeah,
In the reference. It's like,
sure.
but even with All Is Forgiven, as it comes to the end, you know, the band fades out, the song fades out, but you hear this like white noise coming in, just like you know, feedback of guitars, etc. Just a wall of that,
Yeah.
as it ends, right?
But
So
even before that, um, and before you get into the vocal, kind of harmonized rapping section, if you will,
yeah,
there's this little call out sort of back to the beginning of the album with the delicate little keyboard lines of Hush. I mean, again, which sort of gets you back into, oh yeah, this is all some kind of dream. And
yeah,
then, the
yeah,
guitars just rip in again. It's just a fantastic piece of production,
yeah, yeah.
I
And
say.
again, like I always say, these albums for me are like musical journeys. So, and then you have Russian Hill. I mean,
Yep.
take it away. I mean,
I, this is Andy's little prog rock epic. It is I don't know if this is in the book, but they originally he wanted to bring in Toots Thielman to record the harmonica solo
okay,
of it, but if and again, if I'm remembering correctly, he just couldn't hit it. He couldn't get the time signature on it right. It was just too kind of out there for him, so they ended up going with a flute solo instead. That again, if memory serves right, if I'm off base, please, someone in the Jellyfish Army correct me. But
yeah, okay,
yeah, that's just such a wonderful song. And again, these very lush strings, this delicate acoustic guitar, fantastic track.
yeah. And up next is He's My Best Friend. And and but before we continue, like, ladies and gentlemen, these songs in terms of playing time, they're not very long.
Right. Like 4
2 minutes,
minutes.
yeah,
Yeah.
2 to 4 minutes. But what's within these 2 to 4 minutes per song is just an amazing array of color and vibrancy and texture that
Hmm.
is like unreal, unreal.
Oh yeah, he's my best friend is a perfect example of that. It's just such this beautiful homage to everything that was great about 70s pop circa like 73, 74. And it's very much got this Harry Nilsson kind of wink and nod bit of songwriting to it that just, screams. It's
Mhm. Yeah.
we won't touch on the subject matter, said the bishop to the actress. So
Okay. Okay. Yeah, no, we're not going there. We're not going there. Okay, Too Much, Too Little, Too Late is track 11. 3
hmm.
minutes and 15 seconds. There's a lot going on on this.
Yep.
But the the album ends with Brighter Day, which is what you alluded to at the beginning of the episode,
Yes,
at six
sir.
minutes and 12 seconds.
Yep.
What is your view on this piece?
It's kind of like where they embrace their being for the benefit of Mr. Kite and just take it to its extremes. I believe that there's a section in the Brighter Day book where it talks about Andy's in his quest to sort of find out the right lyrical bent to sort of take for the song, and they were sort of doing it in the studio. I mean, the song hadn't been fully written yet when they went in. He was like pacing around the block, trying to figure out the right metaphors to use and the right way to express what he wanted to, and sort of came up with this, circus analogy that just sort of keeps going and going and
Yeah,
going. Not only
yeah,
is it there,
repetitive.
yeah.
Yeah,
Not
yeah,
only is it there lyrically, but just also with the way that the songs are arranged, with tubas and bass drums and, it all sounds like, a circus gone wild, which again sort of gets back to the being for the benefit of Mr. Kite feel.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And I really didn't pick up on that, but yeah, you're right. As I'm hearing it in my head, I agree with you. I agree with you. Yeah, I just,
And then like any great album that sort of is the self-contained unit, it kind of takes you right back to the beginning.
back to the
And
dream.
yeah, just back to sort of, well, it's coming out of the dream.
Yeah, well, yeah, the conclusion. Yeah,
Yeah. And then if you want to let the CD play and just shuffle, you'll get right back into the dream again. I mean, it's not shuffle, but just repeat.
yeah.
Um, it's 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 just so well done. The production on this, um, to me, it's just head and shoulders of what came on Belly Button. Again, the songs are as good, if not better. The arrangements and the creativity and the productions is like a quantum leap forward. And
Yeah.
I think for some people it's just like a little too much of a good thing.
Well, this is my next question is I do remember reading that they were over budget on this album in terms of their recording costs because they just kept going and going, like, adding more in terms of
Hmm.
the instrumentation. Um and it's gotta be said they did break up shortly after.
Hmm.
Um
After the tour in support of Spilt Milk. Yep.
yeah. Well, why do you think that these two albums, Belly Button and Spit Milk, why do you think they, to an extent, fell between the cracks? Let's say.
Well, we were kind of alluding to it earlier. You said it was, after hair metal and before grunge. And, the period of time in there wasn't that long. I mean, hair metal fell apart in the late 80s and grunge was with Nirvana in like, 93, I think,
Yeah.
or 92. Because certainly there are parts of Spilt Milk that are sonically informed by what was going on in the Seattle scene. Um, um, you can, hear bits of that overdriven guitar sort of really doing that. I remember commenting on that at the time when I first heard that cassette a couple of months before the album came out. I think it didn't hit because it was just so unlike anything else that was in the market. I mean, just remember at that time that you were just coming out of this phase where everything was either overdriven electric guitars or drum machines and big Simmons drums, synths and whatnot. And so there wasn't this aesthetic yet or this call for the natural sounding instruments. People,
Organic. Yeah.
it's like, let's listen to Depeche Mode. And this is about as anti-Depeche Mode as could possibly be.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I would agree. I do remember this album coming out, and I do remember at the same time on the same label, Lenny Kravitz, "Are You Gonna Go My Way?" coming
yep,
out. Um, both signed to Virgin, and uh, that album, "Are You Gonna Go My Way?" got major push
sure.
from the record company and from Much Music at the time, and I'm sure MTV in the States. So, and for some reason, whenever I think of Spilt Milk, I think of "Are You Gonna Go My Way?" at the same time because they
Hmm.
were, just I don't know. For me, I think this is a great album. I think they're both fantastic albums.
Hmm.
Um, uh, in terms of why it didn't hit as big as it could have, maybe, and maybe it was musically schizophrenic, but for me, in a good way
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it was schizophrenic, but like I was saying earlier, it's all within
within that
a
realm.
structure. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, no, but I mean that lovingly. I don't mean it in a bad way. I just think that maybe there was, I don't know, music. I can't even say it was musically too diverse because you
Well,
had
it was
all,
diverse from everything that was popular at the time.
so maybe, yeah, maybe it was a too much of a left turn. I don't know, because musically everything is there.
Oh, absolutely. All the raw materials are there. It's just that that was not, unless you were in this particular niche of like college radio,
Yeah,
this wasn't your thing. Or, our local station, KFOG, they played some Jellyfish sometimes. When KFOG did an annual toy drive concert for kids thing, and Jellyfish was the band that played for that. In fact, one of the songs on the Jellyfish Comes Alive EP comes from that KFOG Toys for Tots drive, if I'm not mistaken.
yeah,
Um, so yeah, there were radio stations out there who were getting it. I mean, Jellyfish played one of the last things they did as the original four piece with Jason and Chris was that they did like an MTV beach party, spring break beach party,
that's
and
right.
they were the house band because they had this great musical vocabulary. And as they were cutting to commercial, it's like what other band could jump into playing Kansas or Heart or Fleetwood Mac or Argent or anything like that and just
Yeah,
really catch people off. So
yeah,
they weren't they were about as top of the bubble from breaking through as could possibly be without bursting wide open.
yeah, yeah. And to me, they were a band that, although they were around for a short time span, like in terms of releasing albums, they're a band that never, for lack of a better term, sold out. Do you know what
Well,
I mean?
no, they certainly didn't sell out. They didn't have a chance to, young man.
No, no,
They
I
only
know, I
had
know, I
two
know, but
albums.
no, but musically, um, they had high integrity in terms of what they wanted to record and how they wanted to record it and how they wanted it to sound. They're very much like Queen in that they came fully formed in their packaging in terms of their look, their sound, and the message that they wanted to convey musically.
Yes. Yep, absolutely. And I think it's because of that, let's just call it musical integrity, that when people did discover them and love them, they were rabid. And that's why, you know, the Spilt Milk album came out in 93. That's
Yeah.
it. They had two albums, but yet Not Lame Records in 2002 put out a 4 CD box set.
Yes.
And, we should talk about that a little bit. Uh, they sold out. They did
Yes.
not expect to do this, but they sold out.
Yeah.
Um, Aftermarket prices on this sucker, I'm just happen to have Discogs open
The
on the
yeah,
page
the
right now.
the name of the set, I'll say, is Fan Club from the Rare to the Unreleased and Back Again.
That
Released
is absolutely
August
right.
August in 2002. And
Yep.
please shock the people with how much the
Well, it
this
says
set
here
cost.
there are 8 copies available on Discogs, and the cheapest one is 270. Sorry, the cheapest one is like $180. The most expensive one is 275.
American.
American, yes,
So
160, 170 British pounds, 39,000 yen, 200 euros.
yeah.
It goes on and on and on.
So for in Canadian dollars, ladies and gentlemen, for this box set, you're looking at something like 290 to $350,
Yep.
depending where, yes.
Now,
And
yeah,
in
now,
looking at,
now the good
sorry,
news
go
here,
ahead. Mm,
the good news is that most of these tracks, most of these are included on the 2 disc reissues that Omnivore did for Belly Button and Spilt Milk. There's some stuff that didn't make it over. Um, and basically, the structure of the box set is as follows. It's disc one is the demo sessions that led up to the album being recorded.
yeah,
And then disc two is going to be stuff that comes from the tour, um, live performances, radio interviews, spoken word kind of things, all kinds of Jellyfish silliness and awesomeness kind of comes from that. And then they sort of repeat that with Spilt Milk. Disc
yeah.
three are the demos. Disc four is stuff from the Spilt Milk tour, and also their final piece that they did as Jellyfish, which was for a Harry Nilsson tribute album, and they did a cover of "Think About Your Troubles."
Okay.
So
Yeah.
that is, that's what's contained in the box set. Um, the box set also has lots of great paraphernalia that sort of come with it in terms of how
Yeah.
it's illustrated and laid out.
Yeah.
I highly recommend getting it. I had a copy, and I
You,
don't know where it went to.
you had a copy.
I
Okay.
had a copy, and
Okay.
somewhere between different moves here and there, it has flown the coop. Um,
Okay. I get
but
that.
the uh, but the good news is that that's not all in kind of the reissue world of Jellyfish. Across 2012 and 13, there were 3 other releases that came out. Live at Bogart's, which is a recording from the Belly Button tour at Bogart's Club, somewhere in the southern part of California.
Hmm.
Radio Jellyfish, which is more of a collection of their different um, radio broadcast performances over their career. Again, that spans 4 years. The
Hmm.
most unique of all of these, though, is an album called Stack of Tracks, and this was put out by Omnivore. And basically, what this is it's a 2 disc set, one focusing on Belly Button, the other focusing on Spilt Milk. It's almost like just the backing tracks.
Okay.
So if you wanted to kind of see how closely you can harmonize along with Andy and Roger and Chris and Jason, Godspeed. Here's your way to do that. So it's almost like a vocalless version of the albums. There's other little things that are sort of missing here or there in the mixes, but the idea was to kind of give you sort of what the assembling of a Jellyfish album might be and how you could sort of play along at home.
Oh, there you go. There you go. See, I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
You just schooled me. All right. All right. I just think that for me, Jellyfish are a band that need to be talked about more, and they need to be appreciated more.
Yep,
The musical spotlight should be placed on them a lot more than it is. They were around for a very short time, but their influence is still felt today. Um,
absolutely. One other thing to mention is that when Jellyfish did break up, Andy almost made not a quick direct move, but into album production in Japan, of all places. The Japanese, they were the Jellyfish fans. They got the amazingness of what was done there. So Andy did a couple of albums with a guy named Tamio Okuda, and then a band called Puffy, which was later renamed Puffy Amiyumi. And there's an album. The album is called Nice by Puffy Amiyumi. This is, or just Puffy. Uh, and this is the only album that I'm aware of that Andy produced mostly for the Japanese market that came out, which is just full stem to stern, his production work on it, as well as a little bit of performance, songwriting credits. It's well worth trying to find it.
okay. All right. All right, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. Pure Pop Perfection
Darn
featuring
right.
Jellyfish. Please put down in the comments below your opinion of this band and of the albums that we spoke about. A short discography, but potent nonetheless. And just a, a fantastic band. A fantastic band. Uh, and yeah, if there's anything we missed, please let us know in the comments down below. Uh, so I want to thank Jim for coming along with me on this ride. And again, click like and subscribe and hit the notification bell to keep yourselves on top of any new content we've got coming up. And we have more shows coming up. We're going to be doing a top 10 Rolling Stones, top 10 tracks on Rolling Stones, sorry, with Jim and Ken Cheshire. That's coming up very soon. So please stay tuned for that. Again, I'm Armando Venditti signing off. Please look after yourselves and one another. And we'll see you soon on the music then. Bye for now.